Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amar, and my guest tonight is Mabior Garang de Mabior. The problem of ethnicity in your country continues to rise its ugly head. There are those who have talked about the Dinkanization of politics and resource allocation in South Sudan. How will you, the SPLM in the opposition, solve this issue of ethnicity that seems to be so much interest in your country, if you had the chance of getting into state power?
Well, we are students of history and politics, and we can learn many lessons. And I think Uganda is a good example of a country that had deep ethnicity issues, and today Uganda has transformed itself. So what are some of the lessons that we can learn from Uganda? The president of this country has taught a lot of lessons about how ethnicity and things can be averted. For example, promotion of trade and those kind of things. So I cannot predict the future, but there are examples that we can learn from, you know, and examples that we can apply to our realities in South Sudan. But I want to clarify that the idea that there's the ethnicity in terms of this particular conflict, it is the government use of militias that has created this ethnic dimension to the war. But like I explained earlier, the president felt threatened of his chair being taken, and so he created a situation where he aroused tribal sentiments in the people so that they can clash. So it's a failure of leadership. So if there's good leadership, like I said, in Uganda, there's good leadership in Uganda, and because of that good leadership, the tribal thing has reduced much in Uganda as compared to other bad leaders that were in Uganda. So when Uganda had bad leadership, Uganda had problems of ethnicity. When Uganda got good leadership, the ethnicity thing came down. So we need good leadership in South Sudan. So the fact that there are ethnic tensions in the country is an indication of bad leadership in the country.
There's an opinion that any leader of the SPLM would have confronted similar challenges in South Sudan because of the issues of poverty, education, and graft, that you should have given Dr. Salva Kiir a chance. Because the challenges he faced were really many and different fronts.
Give Salva a chance to do what that he didn't do in the past 8 to 9 years, because we talk about as if South Sudan is from 2011, but the guns went silent in 2005, and we've had all the resources to build a state from 2005 until today. So what is he going to do? What is he going to do to, you know, with the chance that he wants, that he failed to do in the past 8 to 9 years?
So you, in your own capacity now, as you speak for the SPLM in opposition, do you also go in the trenches and sometimes at the battlefront?
That has not happened yet, because as soon as the war started, we went to Addis Ababa for the peace talks. So we have not really, as a leadership, sat down and planned a military campaign. What we have been doing is fighting the onslaught of the government, the continued onslaught of the government since December 15th until today. So if you follow the media and follow the news, the chief of staff of the South Sudan Armed Forces admitted inadvertently in the media that they have a strategy of harassing our forces. Their soldiers don't get paid on time. They have no food. They are starving in their trenches. So from time to time, they go out and they loot from the local population. This provokes counterattacks that lead up all the way to back to places like Bentiu and all these things. So I say this to say that we have not really planned a military campaign. If the talks in Addis were to fail, then maybe one would consider, other means. But for now, we have a platform.
Earlier you said on this show that Salva Kiir in fact has no army. It's the UPDF that is doing the fighting for him. Is it the UPDF still doing all these sorts of things you're talking about?
They have been recruiting. But the UPDF, after beating back our forces to a distance, retreated, and they are more protecting the capital. So they are closer to the capital, and they are not in those other areas fighting the war. The government of South Sudan has since recruited. They are even continuing to do mobilization. They went to my own county recently, and they are asking the people to mobilize there to go and fight the Nuers, in quotes. And so we are talking peace in Addis. Meanwhile, they are mobilizing in South Sudan.
You've signed a cessation of hostilities agreement, it is breached within hours, within minutes. And there's a ping-pong of accusation. What really happens?
I was trying to say this earlier because I'll repeat it again, that the cessation of hostilities agreement was signed on January 23rd. And then a recommitment was signed on May 9th when our two principals were in Addis Ababa. But like I told you, on January 23rd, we were in Malakal, we were in Bentiu, we were in Nasir, we were in Bor, you know. So if you say that we have violated the cessation of hostilities agreement today by attacking Bentiu, for example, if that's what we are being accused of, weren't we already in Bentiu?
You couldn't have attacked the place where you were.
Yeah, when we were already there. So there is a duplicity in terms of there's a partiality here where if the government attacks us, then we are condemned. If we counterattack and take a place, then we have violated the agreement. If we were in Bentiu, in Nasir, in Malakal, in Bor on January 23rd, then who has violated the cessation of hostilities agreement? Like I said, the chief of staff, Salfa's chief of staff, admitted in the media that before the 9th, the rededication to the cessation of hostilities on May 9th, this is in the media, him being quoted, that they had a strategy to gain ground before the signing of the 9th May agreement. So I think there is a duplicity, you know, in this situation.
There are some people who look to you. You are obviously an articulate young man and a freedom fighter. Do you wish to ever emulate your father's leadership skills, perhaps offering yourself for the coveted position as chairperson of SPLM in the future?
The only reason I'm here is because of the failure, you know. If South Sudan was a stable country, you would never see me in politics, because I can do a lot more. You know, politics constrains sometimes people from doing much greater work. I believe that I can contribute to national development outside of government, because my interest is to contribute to the development of our people. And I believe I can do that in the private sector better than I can do it in government. But you see me now in what they call politics, because our country is demanding for leadership, you know, and some of the people who are considered historical leaders are shying away from taking up the mantle. And so it is forcing much younger people like me to step up for my country.
So are these circumstances likely to put you into seeking leadership position, especially chairperson of SPLM in the future?
It's not my desire. It's not my desire at all, but if my people were to demand me to, then that would be a different story. But me personally, I have no desire to do this.
Isn't that a typical African kind of politicking, when the people ask me? I've not heard the people come in a group and ask.
If they don't, then I won't. I will never.
What do you remember about your father, the late Dr. John Garang? What can South Sudan leaders learn from him?
Believe it or not, it's his great love. You know, his great love. He was not. He was a humanist. He was not a local person. And I can quote one of the revolutionary icons in the world, Che Guevara, who said that the greatest. He said, let me say at the risk of seeming ridiculous, that the greatest revolutionaries are guided by great acts of love. So if we were to love each other the way John Garang loved his people, I think we would have no problem in South Sudan. So that's the biggest lesson that I myself have taken away from him, and I would wish that people can take this lesson from him.
What is the future for the young nation? What is the future like? When you look, if you have to look into the future, what do you see for South Sudan?
hopefully that we will learn our lessons from the great mess that we have made of our country and the suffering that we have witnessed right now. I would hope that we learn our lesson, and we will now come together as a people to build our country. And I think that there is a great opportunity, as horrendous as the situation is. It's an opportunity to bring about fundamental change in the country, and for something like this to never happen again.
You are this week meeting UPDF generals and perhaps the commander-in-chief himself. When you meet, what do you want to tell them? Well,
it's we want to we want to bring peace to South Sudan. Peace is in the interest of everybody. So this is what we have been talking with the UPDF generals. How can we bring about peace to South Sudan? And it has been very good. It has been a very good meeting with the. I mean, we are allies from the past. I mean, Uganda played a very big role in the liberation of South Sudan, and so this is something that the South Sudanese should never forget. You know, so it's we are trying to bring back that spirit of brotherhood between the people of Uganda and the people of South Sudan, because leaders come and go. The president of this country will not be here forever. Dr. Riek Machar will not be here forever. Salva Kiir will not be here forever. But our respective peoples are going to continue to be here. So leaders need to leave good relations between their peoples. So we will never rest if there's a conflict between the Uganda and South Sudan. We cannot rest until we normalize these relations. And so we are in the process of trying to normalize these relations and see how can we bring about peace in South Sudan. And we recognize the role that Uganda could play, because instead of all the time looking at the Uganda's presence in South Sudan as a negative thing, let us try and look at it, you know, from a different angle, because you can look at things in two ways. You can decide to look at the negative aspect of it, but there's always a positive aspect of things. And if you allow yourself to be too emotional, sometimes you miss the positive parts of things.
Mabior Garang de Mabior.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for being on the short night.
Okay.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's show. Join us again next week when we bring you yet another edition of On the Spot. That's it. Good night and God bless Uganda.